Hello and welcome. I'm your host, Will. Get ready for a howling good time. If you're a werewolf fan, rejoice! We've got something good for you. Here are the top 10 obscure werewolf movies you probably never heard of. Let's get to it.
I think it would be an understatement to say that werewolves are extremely popular in pop culture. They are another representation of beings isolated from human societies who are considered extremely scary and terrifying. And yet, many of them seem to fit in among us during moments when they haven't turned into werewolves yet, bound to cause us a sense of paranoia. The fact that they are partly human and partly wolf makes them simultaneously similar to and different from humans in several ways, creating an odd juxtapositional and horrifying effect upon the audience whenever they appear on screen. You've probably seen them in iconic, memorable, and popular movies like Twilight and The Howling. But did you know that there are so many werewolf movies that simply fly under the radar? Movies that you might enjoy. In this video, we've got you covered as we're gonna talk about 10 obscure werewolf movies you've probably never heard of. Alright folks, without wasting any more time, let's jump right in. The Curse of the Beast, The Werewolf and the Yeti, Night of the Howling Beast, 1975. The 8th movie in a series of werewolf movies revolving around the werewolf, Count Waldemar Daninsky, is outrageous cinematic fun throughout its runtime. Directed by Miguel Iglesias Bonds and written by Paul Naschy, who also plays the werewolf Waldemar Daninsky himself, it's the only film in the series to have a happy ending, an ending in which Waldemar Daninsky does not die. Without giving a damn about continuity, the movie begins with Waldemar, who has not yet turned into a werewolf. In the movie, he is sent to Tibet as a guide, along with Professor Lacombe, to look for the Yeti. There, he gets separated from Professor Lacombe and his team members, gets bitten by 2 werewolf women, and then turns into a werewolf himself. Meanwhile, Professor Lacombe and his team are kidnapped by a bunch of Tibetan bandits. Waldemar Daninsky goes to fight those bandits, and he even encounters, fights, and manages to kill the Yeti. In the process, he gets severely wounded. The professor's daughter, who is in love with Waldemar, saves his life and cures his lycanthropy. And in the end, we see them happily enjoying each other's company. If you want to watch a werewolf film just to have fun and nothing too much, this is the perfect recommendation for you. It has everything you expect from a werewolf film: gruesome and graphic sequences, some lovely photography, and a wild and fun plot that doesn't bore you even for a second. The happy ending is like icing on the cake. The Beast Must Die, 1974. Do you remember the Netflix interactive Black Mirror movie? Well, before Netflix gave us interactive storytelling with Black Mirror Bandersnatch, this 1974 werewolf mystery used a theatrical gimmick called the werewolf break, pausing the film so viewers could guess the monster's identity. Directed by Paul Annette, written by Michael Winder, and starring Calvin Lockhart, Peter Cushing, and Marlene Clark, The Beast Must Die is quite an unusual movie, as it blends horror elements of a werewolf movie with mystery elements of a detective whodunit. Tom Newcliffe, a millionaire, invites a group of 6 people to his rural mansion. After they arrive, he reveals to them that one of them is a werewolf, and the werewolf must be killed. At the start of the film, a text appears on the screen stating that the audience itself is the detective. Towards the climax, a question mark appears on the screen, followed by a clock, as the movie's narrator directly addresses the viewers and asks them who the werewolf might be. It's a fun movie that blends multiple genres. You get to see a whodunit play out, juxtaposed against horror-filled werewolf sequences. It also compels the audience to actively engage with the film, always keeping them on their toes as they try to guess the werewolf among the guests. You can't afford to miss this suspenseful and atmospheric gem of a werewolf flick.
What is your name?
The Werewolf of Washington, 1973. Before appearing in iconic, masterful, and phenomenal movies like Paris, Texas, and Blue Velvet, Dean Stockwell played the lead role in The Werewolf of Washington, a movie that combines political satire with werewolf-centered horror. Dean Stockwell plays Jack Whittier, the press secretary for the White House, who also happens to be a werewolf. Jack Whittier commits a bunch of politically advantageous murders while turning into a werewolf. He feels extremely guilty about it though. One day, after turning into a werewolf, he attacks the president and then goes to attack his daughter Marion, with whom he is also having an affair. Marion kills him by shooting him with a silver bullet. His death is covered up by falsely stating that Jack Whittier was a hero who sacrificed his life by coming between a sniper's bullet and the president's daughter. At the end of the film, the president himself is shown turning into a werewolf. The no-holds-barred political satire in this film is extremely sharp as it makes fun of Richard Nixon's administration and tactics. The political commentary in this film deserves your attention. The film induces a sense of fear among its viewers through its stop-motion transformation sequences and perfect 1970s horror score. This movie went quietly under the radar, but its satirical tone still rings true. If you want to watch an oddball werewolf movie that's scary, funny, political, and atmospheric all at the same time, then look no further than this one. Bad Moon, 1996. A werewolf movie for dog lovers, Bad Moon is bound to entertain you. Directed by Eric Red and starring Mariel Hemingway, Michael Pear, Mason Gamble, and a German Shepherd dog named Primo as Thor. This movie is about a journalist named Ted Harrison. Harrison, a photojournalist, is attacked during a work trip in Nepal, where a werewolf kills his girlfriend Marjorie and leaves Ted infected with lycanthropy. In the process, Ted manages to shoot and kill the werewolf. When he returns to the United States, he moves into a trailer and starts randomly murdering people in gruesome ways. As it turns out, unsurprisingly, as a result of getting bitten by the werewolf in Nepal, he is turned into a werewolf himself. Later on, back in the States, he starts living with his sister and nephew. His sister also has a German Shepherd pet named Thor. Thor is extremely suspicious towards Ted, and the rest of the story follows. One of the things worth mentioning is that Ted is a complicated character, way more than just a one-dimensional, evil and scary werewolf. The practical effects are great for the most part. It also stands out among so many werewolf movies, pitting a pet dog against a werewolf, instead of a conventionally badass hero. If you're craving something disturbingly fun, this movie is exactly what you're looking for. Project Metal Beast, 1995. Project Metal Beast doesn't pretend to be anything it's not. It's an archetypal werewolf movie, through and through. From start to finish, a CIA agent injects himself with the blood of a werewolf, and then he becomes a werewolf and goes on a killing rampage inside a CIA research facility. He is shot down, frozen, and then resurrected 20 years later with metal skin. And then he starts killing people again. Don't watch this movie for the plot. Watch it for the experience. It's sure to simultaneously terrify and entertain you. It's filled with a lot of werewolf action. It doesn't care about the story or the characters as much as showing werewolf mayhem as much as possible. And if you can roll with it, you are definitely going to love this one. Directed by Alessandro De Gaetano and starring John Marzilli as Donald Butler, with Kane Hodder bringing the Metal Beast werewolf to life. This movie knows exactly what kind of outrageous creature feature ride it wants to be. Late Phases, 2014. Alright, this one's heavy. Directed by Adrian Garcia Bogliano, written by Eric Stolz, and starring Nick D'Amici, Late Phases is about a blind, aging Vietnam War vet named Ambrose McKinley, who goes to live in a retirement community. There, reluctant to socialize at first, he befriends a woman named Dolores, who is later brutally killed by a werewolf. In that incident, Ambrose and his dog also get attacked. His dog Shadow does not survive. Ambrose's fighting spirit gets revived, and he becomes fiercely and fearlessly determined to seek vengeance against the werewolf. This movie is very slow burn and atmospheric. It's a werewolf horror film set in a retirement community, and you don't usually see that quite often in a werewolf movie. Watch this film for the iconic performance by Nick D'Amici as Ambrose McKinley, as he oozes old-school toughness. The film focuses on the mature human drama elements as much as the fantasy werewolf elements. The awkward family dynamics of how children communicate with their elderly parents are pretty interesting to watch. Also, the fact that the protagonist is an old, aging, and blind war vet pitted against a werewolf. You don't get to see that a lot in werewolf cinema. Imagine if Gran Torino was a werewolf movie. You can't afford to miss this obscure masterpiece. Wolf Cop, 2014. It works as a cop movie, it works as a superhero movie, and it works as a werewolf horror movie. Prioritizing practical effects over CGI, written and directed by Lowell Dean, and starring Leo Fafard, Amy Matizio, Jonathan Cherry, Sarah Lind, and Jesse Moss. Wolf Cop succeeds with flying colors. It's about a cop named Lou Garou, an alcoholic and lazy cop who, one day, wakes up with a pentagram carved into his stomach and turns into a werewolf. His town is filled with vicious criminals of all kinds. At first, Lou attempts to stop the wolf inside him from completely taking over. But as the plot moves forward, Lou happily embraces his werewolf identity and viciously kills criminals and corrupt people in his town. The werewolf transformation scenes are handled well. Practical effects really enable those sequences to look nasty, terrifying, and even hilarious at times. The North American-Canadian small-town setting looks pretty authentic and helps viewers to suspend disbelief and immerse themselves in the story even more. It has cops, gangs, werewolves, occultists, gore, and humor. I mean, what more can you ask for? If you want to watch a cop werewolf action drama movie that doesn't pull any punches, look no further than this one. It won't bore you, even for a second. Where, 2013. Directed and co-written by William Brent Bell, starring AJ Cook, Brian Scott O'Connor, Simon Quarterman, Sebastian Roche, and Vic Sahay, Where is a gem of a werewolf movie in which the investigative crime drama and police procedural elements take center stage. The director and writer of the film, William Brent Bell, and co-writer Matthew Peterman, never let go of the tense and suspenseful atmosphere. The film opens after a crime has taken place. A family of American tourists has been brutally murdered. Only one woman among the family members has survived, constantly slipping in and out of consciousness. A local man, Talon Gwinnett, is arrested for the murders. Catherine Samantha, an American human rights lawyer, chooses to represent Talon. Meanwhile, her ex, Dr. Gavin Fleming, an animal expert, also gets involved as he becomes a part of her defense team. Gavin becomes jealous of Catherine's closeness to Eric, who works as her investigator. Meanwhile, the local police chief, Klaus, is constantly hostile towards the defense team. Later on, Talon does turn out to be the werewolf, and the rest of the story unfolds. Watch this masterpiece of a movie to figure out what happens next, as we don't want to spoil it for you. The actors in this movie are fully committed to their characters, and the stunts are impeccably choreographed. The visceral impact of the violent scenes would compel you to get hooked on this movie throughout its runtime. Another great thing about this movie is that the characters are not simply one-dimensional. They are layered and complex human beings with flaws and contradictions. Don't miss this under-the-radar werewolf movie that essentially operates as a dark and serious investigative crime drama, keeping you on your toes throughout its entire runtime. The Wolf of Snow Hollow, 2020. The Wolf of Snow Hollow is exquisitely shot, directed, and acted. Jim Cummings is the writer, director, and star of this iconically underrated masterpiece. Renowned Robert Forster from Jackie Brown also stars in this film, in his final role as Jim Cummings' character John Marshall's father. It is set in the town of Snow Hollow, Utah. A serial killer kills people periodically, and people in the town respond to the shock and horror by believing that there is a werewolf behind the attacks. And the rest of the story operates as a mystery movie, with horror and black comedy elements. The film has often been discussed as sitting somewhere between Zodiac, Fargo, and a werewolf mystery, but at the same time, Jim Cummings has his own unique directorial voice worthy of notice. The cinematography from Natalie Kingston is gorgeous, as she maintains a slightly heightened sense of reality in her night lighting to make you believe that a werewolf might actually be the culprit. Jim Cummings is extremely innovative and experimental with his choice of shots and setups, not shying away from using long one-takes whenever necessary, letting the camera stay and trusting the audience. The crime thriller atmosphere is very present in the film, but it never loses its own unique voice. The black humor inspired by the movies of the Coen brothers such as Fargo, Blood Simple, and No Country for Old Men is ever present in this film. And if that's not enough, Jim Cummings also gets to show his acting chops as he gets to play a morally gray character in the form of John Marshall, the deputy sheriff of Snow Hollow. His character is extremely flawed in a very human and relatable way, as he struggles to raise his daughter and care for his ailing and old father, while also investigating the murders in town. He's knocked it out of the park in the acting department as well. Miss this movie at your own risk. Blackout, 2023. The introspective, thought-provoking, and psychological drama elements of Blackout make it stand out among werewolf movies, as it emphasizes more on the inner life of a werewolf cut off from society instead of any form of sensationalism or glorification. It's about a depressed and alcoholic man named Charlie Barrett, who has become a werewolf. He is guilty of the fact that he has killed people every full moon, and he is miserable. There's no glory in his brutal strength to kill people. It remains an introspective, mature, and thoughtful film throughout its runtime. Written and directed by Larry Fessenden and starring Alex Hurd as Charlie Barrett, it takes inspiration from Marvel's Werewolf by Night series, as well as monster films from the 1930s, 40s, and 50s, particularly The Wolfman. The film's screenplay was adapted from an episode Larry Fessenden wrote for his horror podcast, inspired by 1930s radio dramas, Tales from Beyond the Pale. Larry Fessenden has said that he was interested in exploring the duality of being a werewolf, who is both out of control and regretful. And that duality shaped his story, and you see that at play here quite beautifully in this overlooked gem of a film. It's an introspective character study of a werewolf, and it puts out a very interesting, offbeat, and unique masterclass in how a werewolf movie should be made. Don't miss this criminally underrated masterpiece at any cost. I hope these recommendations keep you occupied for a very long time. They are all extremely fun, innovative, terrifying, and outrageous in their own ways. In popular culture, werewolves are considered fascinating, terrifying, mythical, and, at times, more complicated than any of that. They offer the potential to filmmakers to portray them in multitudinous and diverse ways. Alright folks, it's time for us to sign off. We hope you enjoyed our diverse list of obscure werewolf movies. Please like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks for being with us, we appreciate it. Stay tuned, we'll be back with our next video.